Can you hear us good, Brandon?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just on mute.
There you go. Okay, we can hear you good. Out.
Okay.
Well, now we have a quorum here. Now Lisa will be a little late. Council member Northrup late to the work. I did hear from her, so should be here in not too many minutes. But so to start, Brandon, maybe we could just turn the first part of this work meeting. We had a question, on our last council. Maybe you could kind of brief us a little bit on what as far as our communications with some developers as it pertains to going through our legal counsel, and maybe just kind of share a little bit of that with us. And that, okay.
Yeah, sure. So I think probably the main one is that Eagle Estates one, and we've gotten a few communications over the past few months from an attorney for the developer. The first one, and if I had it in front of me, I'd be able to give you the exact dates on these, but the first one was several months ago, and we got a communication from an attorney. And it's kind of interesting. I was talking to Reed about this yesterday. A lot of times developers, I think, will go and they'll retain an attorney and they'll tell them, the city's being impossible to work with or difficult to deal with, and I need you to go after them and send them a letter. And so there's a provision in the Utah code that says if a developer, a developer is ready to have a land use decision given, and he's done everything he needs to, the city or the county or the state, any public entity, has 45 days to make a final decision on that. And so most of the time when I see these letters come in from attorneys, they cite that statute. The problem with that is most of the time I find that they're citing the statute when their own client is not actually prepared for the city to make a final decision, if that makes sense. And most of the time with the subdivisions, what we see is, as you guys know, there's a long list of things that developers need to complete before they should even go on to a planning commission agenda, let alone get up to the city council for a final decision. And so, we're obviously talking about the will serve letters and making sure that everything's right on the plat, working with our engineer. So all those things. So most of the time when I get those letters, first thing I do is reach out to the city staff and try to find out what's going on, because 100% of the time, in my experience, these developments are not ready to have a final decision being made. And so if they're getting static or pushback on being placed onto an agenda, it's typically because of that. And my interpretation of it is city staff is trying to actually help these developers make sure that they have everything prepared. And so that was kind of a long story to get my point. So with that Eagle Estates a couple of months ago, when we heard from their attorney, that was what was going on. He had been told by his client, hey, the city's just stonewalling me. When in actuality, when I checked with city staff, the developer was lacking a whole bunch of stuff, from letters to getting the plans drawn up right. And so I sent a letter back to that attorney and said, hey, I think at that point we had barely approved the rezone. And so it wasn't even close to time, for a final decision to be made on an actual development. So I told the attorney back then, hey, you guys got to do everything and then actually submit a preliminary approved plan to be considered. And the attorney was very nice. He said, you know what, you're right. I'll tell my client. So that was a few months ago. Then I didn't hear anything from it until maybe a month ago. I got another letter, and it was very much similar to the first one, kind of a cut and paste job where it kind of accused the city again of not putting this Eagle Estates on the agenda. And so we did a little work meeting real quick, and we determined that in reality, it was probably still not ready to go, and that city staff was trying to help the developer to be ready so they get on the agenda and get approved. But at that point, when we got that second letter, we made the determination that at that point, let's put them on the agenda, because if they want a final decision, let's give them a final decision. And it may be, if they don't have everything put together, there's going to be no choice but to deny it. A lot of times we sit there and try to work with them and, tell them, in reality, you need to do this, you need to do that. But maybe it's come to the point with these developers, especially when we get letters like that, just put them on the agenda. And if they get denied, they get denied, and they've got to start all over again. So that's kind of the long story on that Eagle Estates. After we got the second letter, wrote back to the attorney and said, hey, there's still some things that need to be done, but we'll put them on an agenda. So they're on the next planning commission agenda. Hopefully they've got everything ready to go, because my direction is going to be to make a decision on it, not table it, not continue it, just decide and make a recommendation. Then of course it'll come up to you guys at the council level, and you'll have to make an ultimate determination. But anyway, that was kind of a long story, but there's a few of those like that. And so I think maybe the moral of that story for me always is like, reach out to the city staff first and find out what's going on. Because when you get those letters, you always feel like, uh-oh, is something going on here? Is the city not doing something? But I was thinking about it. I don't think there's even been one instance, because our city staff is so good. I don't think there's been one instance where I've had to say, hey guys, we're in some legal jeopardy here, put them on the agenda. There's always something that was preventing them from going on the agenda. And that was the case here. So I guess the moral of that very long story is I always make sure I check and kind of know what's going on. And then it's usually nothing to be worried about. And I'm not worried about this one either. We'll just obviously make a decision on it and go forward with it. But I do think city staff tries to help, and maybe there's just some misunderstanding on the developer side, which is typically what I see. But do you have any other questions about that? That's kind of an update on kind of at least Eagle Estates. And there's one other one, and the name of the subdivision escapes me, but it's very similar to that one, where we got a letter, and once I checked into it, they were just not ready to be put onto an agenda. So there could be a discussion, I guess, amongst the council on, what to do with those if we want to be, I don't know how to phrase it, less accommodating, I guess, at the city staff level on trying to help these guys and just put them on an agenda. We can do that. Typically the problem is, and if you have anyone from the planning commission that wants to speak to it, usually the problem is they get to that level, they don't have things done. And it's incredibly frustrating to the planning commission, because the developers inevitably are pushing on them to give them a conditional approval or something like that, when it's their fault for not being ready in the first place. So I don't know, those are some kind of things to talk about, and we can certainly keep doing what we're doing. Or if you feel like, hey, just push these guys through, and if we deny them, we deny them, maybe that's something to consider too. So any questions on that?
If a developer reaches out to me as a councilman, what is the ability I have to talk to them about their plan? What should I be talking to them with about their plan? I've had different people reach out, not just developers, but hey, can we sit down and talk about X, Y, Z? And I'm just not sure what the right move is as far as meeting with people and discussing things. It seems like we should be listening to the input given to us by, citizens and or people that are doing business in our town. What's the recommendation on stuff like that, especially once, and to even take that further, once someone is talking about any type of litigation. In the business world, if somebody threatens me with litigation and I'm a principal in my company, I tell them, it was nice to talk to you. I'll no longer be talking to you. Talk to my attorney. I don't know in the public sector how that works.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that happens all the time, right? You get a developer that'll try to reach out to you personally, or a resident or something like that. And I think some of it's a matter of discretion on your part. If we want to talk about like legal obligations, no, of course, you don't have any like legal obligation where you have to talk to them. My suggestion, similar to what you said in the the business world, obviously if somebody's coming to you telling you they're going to sue the city and this, that, the other, is probably best practice at that point to politely, if you want to listen, but I wouldn't say much other than, well, we'll have to, let our city attorney handle that and kind of go from there. I don't know that there's any real benefit served if a person's to that point. If it's a person who's earnestly just trying to ask a question, hey, what's going on? Hey, I feel like I'm having a problem here. I don't see a problem with you talking to them. I guess my suggestion would be similar to what I was saying when I always, go and check with city staffers before I really say anything back. That's probably a good practice for you guys too, just because you may want to understand everything from the city side too before you kind of really get into it with them. So that could be one option if someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm concerned about this development and this isn't happening right or whatever. Obviously you could listen to the concern, and that's, I believe, part of your job there as a person on the council. But as far as engaging anymore with, what ought to be happening or this should be happening, at that point, my suggestion would be to check with city staff, try to find out more about it, and then you could at least know what's going on there. I guess the only other thing to avoid is probably a lot more listening than it is talking in those situations. I would avoid, and this probably is obvious, but making any promises of what will happen or anything like that, because you just don't want to be caught in some situation where a developer says, well, you know what, that council member said this and now it's not happening. We want to avoid that, but certainly listening to somebody's concern is fine, and then checking into it with the city. But again, if they threaten litigation or anything like that, I would suggest you don't engage too much more other than this, maybe just listen to them and say, yeah, I understand. But at that point, they're probably needing to have their attorney contact us or something along those lines. So it's kind of and it's hard to give a one size fits all answer to that, but I would just be cautious, saying anything before checking back with the city, because it's amazing what I find out, when I hear something sometimes from people, you start thinking, wow, we dropped the ball on this, but then when you check, it all makes sense. And so then you're able to respond better. So I don't know, hopefully that helps. It's kind of a discretion on your part. Obviously with the open meetings thing, you can't have three of you obviously talking to anybody outside of a meeting, but one of you, it doesn't violate any laws that way or anything like that. You just have to be a little careful. The other thing I see come up, I guess my last point is, another reason to kind of check in and make sure you have all the facts is that, I'll see in these letters, a lot of times they'll cite discussions that somebody had with a council member or something like that. And so, I want to avoid any kind of misinformation going out there too. So anyway, hopefully that helps.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Brandon? Okay, thank you, Brandon. I think that's really good.
Okay, no problem.
The second thing I just wanted to bring up in our work meeting here is a question brought up about some complaints on animals that were being slaughtered out on 900 West. So our ordinance officer did go out, and no one was there at the time they went out, but they took a lot of pictures, of what the area was like, and then they posted this notice to them. And then they followed up with that the next day, and these had all been taken down. So I think it's just a matter of, we had the understanding that this was not going to go on past the March, and where it did, that's when we got our ordinance officer involved. And so any of you want to look at this, or that's what was posted out there, put in a plastic sleeve. So I was pretty sure there were a few of them. put out there. So I'm pretty sure they had to have been taken down. So that's where we are on
I
that.
drove by the other day.
So what's our next move?
Yeah, it was early in the morning, so I mean.
You say that was today?
No.
Oh.
Early, probably last week sometime.
Last Friday, they were out there. That may have
Yeah, I think Friday they were there from, close as we can tell, from 8:30 in the morning, and they were still there. I mean, I drove out there and they were still there till after 3. That's when we called the ordinance officer to come out right then. But by the time, there were 2 of them that came out. By the time they were here and we went back out, then that's when they had left. So
If we see that, I mean, is that something that, at this point now, should we be contacting the sheriff's department then? What's
contact who?
the sheriff's department? Who do we contact?
You know, I think if you see him there, the moment you see him, if you could get a hold of the city here, unless it's on a Friday.
Yeah, it probably was Friday that I saw them. So
Yeah. That after the meeting, I could give you our ordinance officer's number, a cell number, and she is willing to take a call from you, and they'll come out just as quickly as they can.
that's what they think they do, is they come because they know, they do Friday because they know the city is closed. So, you know,
That's what we talked about last time, though, was our ordinance officer has the obligation or the ability to call the sheriff's department to enforce that ordinance.
She does.
So,
Yeah, so if you call her, I mean, more than likely, she may very well call them. Even though we were told that the sheriff's department has been notified that it's been going on out there, but really that really has nothing to do with the sheriff's department other than to support the city and saying
right.
people are not following our ordinances. No, I don't. I think Brandon, you might could help us out with that. I think we can file something against them as a city if someone's doing something that's illegal. That,
Yeah, we could, I mean, there's a few ways to do it. The best way is to get somebody, whether it's the ordinance officer or somebody to write up what's happening. And then we can definitely go after them and charge them in the justice court. And any kind of law that they're breaking, we can charge them. So typically it helps me though, if we're going to do it in the justice court, if I have some kind of a report written up. So if it's the code enforcement guy or the sheriff's deputy, you know, if somebody can write something up, then even if they don't charge them, I can take that report and I can charge them in the justice court. We can do it that way. We do that a lot of times with these people that have a lot of junk at their house and refuse to clean it up. Ultimately, we have to charge them in the justice court to get them to comply. So it's similar to that.
Sounds like she already did that. She went out and took pictures, put together a report. She's documented something.
she has documented, and I think she's keeping a really good record of what times been out here. And well, there's 2 of them actually that's coming out now together. One of them's kind of in training, but
So I mean, I would say let's move forward. They said March 1 they were done, and they're obviously not following that. So we've got the documentation. Maybe she needs to get with Brandon and say, let's move forward and bring up charges with them.
okay.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with that. Just if somebody wants to let her know to get me a copy of everything, I'll review it. And if we can, if we can file, we'll do it.
And the mayor has an appointment with her this week, so we'll get that finalized.
Perfect.
even if it's not at an appropriate time, you could probably let the mayor know. I'm sure he would take, you know.
Okay. The next thing I just want to review with you is to find out if April 29th would be a good date for our budget. You can kind of check that, and if that works out, we'll just kind of schedule that date for that meeting, and that's 7 o'clock, right, Shauna? We would just start.
It seems like you can start at 6, yeah.
Maybe 6 o'clock.
Currently the 29th works for me.
Our budget meeting, how I noted it. I just keep going down through my list, or council members want to bring up?
I think we brought this up, but I don't want to keep hashing it, but are we any closer to a posting on whatever we decide to call that position?
Well, we're not closer to posting a planner. We have hired 2 public works to replace those that had, well, both of them had retired.
So have we given up on the planner? Is that, because I thought as a council, we wanted to move forward, but then I feel like, once again, I'm not trying to be confrontational. I just know as a council, we had a long discussion.
We have had, but you know, as far as just a planner, just that title alone as a planner position, we haven't had a lot of information come in on just that, what that planner, that job description how that planner's job description would be for Hooper. We had examples from other cities, but not for Hooper.
I thought we asked for that job description to be put together and for that posting to be done.
We have a job description written if you want to come in and review that.
I'd like it posted, or we talked about defunding that position, and then I know there are several council members that spoke up on the fact that that position is valuable. And so that's where we left it at that moment. If we read back through the minutes, I'm pretty sure we said, I'm sure it was Councilman Hill, there was a big advocate saying the position is obviously necessary. We should move forward with getting this position rolling. And I've let it go for 2 or 3 meetings because I don't want to be that guy. But I kind of feel like I'm being snubbed, or the council as a whole is being snubbed by our recommendation to the mayor. And I think there needs to be some accountability, Mayor.
Well, there is accountability. So,
For that position.
yeah, Councilmember Paulson, right after this meeting, if you want to come in and review that job description, want to review the job description and see if that really does take into account everything that, well, in fact, I don't remember getting any recommendation from you as far as what that position should be. We did from others.
The council recommended to you, Mayor. I'm part of the council. We submitted 3 or 4 different drafts. We gave input, we gave ideas.
I never saw a draft.
We talked about,
But this was before, we started this before you were here.
Okay.
This started back with Councilman Cave. This has been dragging on now almost a year. If we're not doing it, that's fine. But then let's just say we're not doing it. Let's not say we're doing it and not do it.
Okay, well, there have been higher priorities as far, like, we have a planning commission in place today to help plan Hooper and Hooper City. In fact, we're going through a whole process of putting.
Why would we not want that person to be involved with that process? Why would we not want them to be at the grassroots of that process?
Okay, what would that person do? In your opinion, what would a planner?
Well, our recommendation is not to have this discussion now because we're running out of time, but I'll make a formal motion in our meeting. Hold on, till we're in a meeting, but I'd like to see it on our next agenda and actually either put it to bed or do something with it.
All right,
because I feel like we're just round and round we go.
Okay, any other items that you want to bring up during the work session? We have about 3 minutes left. Okay, if not, then I'll want to know your opinion on one other thing. We have a possibility, or we could do some impact studies, I should say, that might help clarify some of the areas in Hooper City that some studies that should be made as far as our sewer system's concerned, our parks, our transportation, so that all these come together to see if we have a sustainable plan. In other words, could we put together a plan that would be good for the residents of Hooper for the next 10, 15, 20 years? And I wondered if the council felt like those types of studies would be good. We have a transportation study going on now. But would it be worth it to you? I think sometimes, Shauna, there's grant money that may be available for some of these, even through the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Right. So really what we want to do is get an opinion for council to see if they're interested in moving forward in pursuing a new impact fee study, transportation fee study, a possible rate study for the actual sewer rate, and maybe another park impact fee study. That way we can just verify that the impact fees that we're currently charging for the city are what going to help sustain it as we move forward. You wouldn't want to necessarily compare because the impact fee studies are based solely on your system and your circumstances. So, and that's what the study does. It does create an independent study to let the city know if our impact fees are where they need to be, if they need to be lowered, or if they need to be increased.
And that's why I was looking at, it was like, how are ours right now? compared to
And we
how
don't
ours
have
are right now?
control
But they
for,
have the-
yeah, we don't have control for Central Weber.
Yeah,
They do their own studies and we just,
right,
we take that fee and pass it on.
okay. I was just making sure, it's like, I wanted to see what somebody else was doing, just to see how we set up next to them. But I know that we are different, so.
Yeah, and those fees are regulated pretty heavily by the state. So it would need to be a professional study and that's what dictates the fees that we charge.
Does the study, I'm assuming it costs the city money to have. those
It
studies
does. Yeah, it does.
But I think if we have grants coming or able to pay for that, then
Right.
absolutely we move forward with it.
Yeah.
done? I would agree with that. If we
And
can
that's
find
just like
money-
where we'll start to research this for you. So as we move into this next budget year, we can allocate that appropriately.
I-
Yeah.
Definitely time.
They are time consuming. So that's why we're just trying to see if it's something you're interested in and we'll put in that research. If not, we'll just move forward.
Okay, seeing that it's 7 o'clock, we will call this meeting to order. Hooper City Council meeting for Thursday, March the 18th, 2021. We'll begin this meeting with a pledge of allegiance by Council Member Cox. Have a reverence from Council Member Paulson.
dear kind Heavenly Father, we come before this evening as a city council and as citizens of Hooper and ask you to bless us as we discuss the needs of the citizens and of our community, that we might be able to come up with ideas and solutions that might make our town prosperous and that we might be able to make it a safe and happy place for people to live. We're grateful for the moisture that we've been receiving and ask you to continue to provide us with the moisture that we may need for our agriculture and for other things this summer. We're grateful for the many bounteous blessings we have and ask you for continued blessings upon those facing situations with our pandemic. Bless those leaders that they might make good decisions and our medical experts, and bless those that have been affected both financially and physically, that they might be able to rebound from those effects they felt. And we would pray for these things and do so in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, first on the agenda, we have kind of a special occurrence. We have Colleen, pronounce that Mulvey. Mulvey is present to, she is the president of the Utah Municipal Clerks Association, and we are glad that you're here to make a special presentation to Shauna. So if you would just like to come up pulpit and maybe you'd want to share with us a few ideas about this award.
Yes, I'd be more than happy to. And I thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time and for this opportunity that we get to recognize Jana. Like you said, we represent the Utah Municipal Clerks Association, and we're also partnering with International Institute of Municipal. That's like our mothership. They have a certification program. We also have an amazing relationship with SUU down in Cedar City, and they offer our educational programs as well. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. What Shauna has earned, 5 minutes clerk. That takes anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 years. It just depends on how gung-ho you are and how much time you can put into it. And once again, thank you for being so supportive of education. Important for up in this professional world that's constant. So basically, to become a certified municipal clerk, you have to do hours in classes, sitting in class, filling out reports, and learning. So it takes education points and 50 what they call being on committees or working as a clerk. And that translates into about hours. Did it, got her certified clerk, and that's really something. Yeah. It's no easy feat, a lot of patience, but it really helps have a network of our, not only in our state, but our region, also international. So member of this. So proud of her, proud of you, giving her our privilege tonight to recognize her.
All right. Well, I just want to say quickly that I am so thankful for Colleen and the UMCA board for just, supporting me and being there to guide us through, difficult times. And so truly all that's just been invaluable. I really, really appreciate that. And I just want to take a second to thank the council and the mayor for your respect and your trust in the role that I have here at the city. And thank you so much for your support in professional development. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you again.
Do a good
Sure.
photo. Oh. Number 1 fan. works like crazy.
Asset to the city.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you guys are in the picture.
At least stand up. Yeah. Don't be shy.
I'm sure you can see where.
Thank you again.
Yeah, exactly. You can see your
That's
eyes.
my biggest smile. I hope you got it.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, did you get the text? Carrie? Oh, okay, to him. Yeah. Right, that's what I thought. Okay.
Cause I was like,
And then there was one.
Well, thank you, Jonna, for all your hard work. We really do appreciate that.
awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, at this point on the agenda, we'll just ask each member of the council if you have any conflicts of interest, of anything that's on the agenda, and if so, if you need to disclose them at this time. Okay, seeing none. Okay, if each of you have had a chance to review our council meeting from March the 4th, 2021, review those. If you see any amendments that need to be made or corrections,
Everybody got the updated draft,
E-
correct?
everyone
I'm
has.
clearly a professional.
Ironic for today, right?
So if you don't see any, we would entertain a motion to approve March 4th minutes from our. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, each of you have received a copy of the financials from February. Do you have any questions about those?
I have a question about the CARES Act money, $765,000 we were given by the CARES Act. According to our financial statement, we haven't spent any of that money. Will that be updated at some point, or does it show? I don't know.
Was that the total? Because we did actually spend. Well, let me state that a little different. We sent the money to the county, and the county did spend some of that money back, some of our residents here. And that was about $57,000. And it came back to Hooper City. Now, we did spend some of that money. Really should show on some of the updates we have here.
All this equipment.
That's right, the equipment and.
So, yeah, we didn't spend a ton like we had discussed. I think we did a water fountain, some more sanitizable chairs, and then masks and cleaning supplies for city staff, especially public works, and some additional tables to help with social distancing, and then the equipment that you see here. So most of it did go over to the county. And then I think if it's not reflected here, it'll be reflected in a journal entry that will come just like at a later date, and especially when we go to amend the budget.
So where we've only spent 57,000, or the county spent 57,000, we've spent a drop in the bucket here.
Right.
Does all that money go away? Does the county give it back? What happens to the 700,000 we don't spend?
Well, the county spent it.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
I
it's
got an
gone.
email. I reached out to the county.
The 50,000 was the only,
So
out of that, only 50,000 came back to our community.
so they spend
Right.
our money in
To the county.
other places.
Right, throughout
which
the
I was
county.
afraid was gonna happen. Yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
Really fast.
So it kind of backfired from what we talked about.
Right. We knew it would. So I guess in our financial statement, I would like to see that annotated, that we didn't spend $750,000. We gave it to the county and they did whatever with it. You know,
Sure. And I can talk to the treasurer to see if we could more clearly define that. I mean, some of that's defined in the resolution that we passed to give those selected tranches over to the county. And I haven't seen, the county, last I spoke to the county, they were going to give us a list of the people who in Hooper did benefit from that money. But I haven't seen that yet,
Yeah.
but they don't always flow through to me.
again, accountability, especially with that type
Right,
of change.
yeah.
You know,
And
so-
there was some very stringent accountability, which is why we couldn't really quite use it with this first COVID CARES money. The list of things that we could and could not do, like, I don't know that we would necessarily be eligible to even hire somebody to use that money. Now, with this next tranche of money in the American Rescue Act, it hasn't been finalized at all, and so there's really nothing for us to go off of. But as of now, it's geared more towards the city, so the portion that we will get of that money, it is ours. There's way less restrictions for it, and it's geared towards infrastructure spending for the city, for the municipality, for the community. And we'll have up all the way till 2024 to spend that money when or if we receive it.
Haven't been any estimate at all on how much that might be?
None of the numbers are 100% yet. Nothing's finalized yet, but somewhere around like $1 million, I think.
Wow.
But that is just still kind of speculation. It's all up in the air. Nothing's been finalized yet.
Okay.
It's just there.
Okay, thank you, Shona.
Back to the total amount that was spent here in Hooper, we do have total amount, right, to dollars and cents as far as businesses that were helped.
And we did,
The list, I mean, it didn't really have a list of names. It just has a total.
and then we also, we used quite a bit of it for the community events that we did. So we used that a lot to purchase hand sanitizer. We gave out masks and hand sanitizers multiple times, like at all the events that we did have to the community as a whole. And that was kind of the only way we felt that we could legally spend that money within the limits for our capacity.
It'd be interesting to see how the county legally spent our money.
Sure. I think most of it went into like the small business loans and things like that.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if some of that went into special service districts. So,
I'm here to tell you, it was gone in less than a week.
yeah,
Less
I
than a
heard it
week,
was
there was money
gone.
available.
It was gone pretty fast, especially that second round.
No, I think the big businesses took it. That's why I took it.
Oh.
Well, where'd the money go? I mean, there's no way. I mean, it would be a lot of small businesses would have taken the money. I'm pretty sure. It would be interesting to see what the county did then. Well, it's all county too, but there's a lot of people, a lot of hands grabbing. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, you can imagine a bigger city got a lot more than we did for sure, but I don't know.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that
Yeah.
the next round will be less restrictive.
Yeah.
Yes.
good.
That is good news. And of course, when we're talking about the county, we are referring to all the cities within the county that use the money too. And it wasn't just the unincorporated.
Correct.
Okay, next on the agenda, we just have a part here for citizens' comments. I don't know if anyone has posted anything to you, Shauna. If not, yes, yeah, we have these comments that I think all of you have copies of.
Okay, so we did have just a few public comment, and I'll go ahead and read those into the record. And these ones are just for the increase in arena fee. And I did give you a copy just so you could have it. Okay, so our first one, we'll start with Aaron Fish. Hi, my name is Erin Fish. I have been involved in the 4-H program as a Purple Sage mom and club leader since 2006. I understand increasing costs, but could it be considered to do it more gradually? 4-H is a nonprofit organization, so we will need to increase our dues and show fees as well as cover these increases. Some of our families to the community do 4-H because it's all they can afford to do with the horses and their kids who love to ride. What about a smaller increase and revisit yearly at a small increase, $5, $10 to cover pay or equipment costs with the cap that is proposed? Is giving the 4-H in the community time to adjust the increases as well. So her proposal is instead of the current $250 with one show and concession, proposed $325 with one show and concession. Concession debatable. Arena daily rental youth groups is currently $25. Proposed $100 plus $25 cleaning fee. This should cover pay for tractor. I'm not clear on the need for deposit from the organization I am affiliated with, and so I have no comment. Overall, I would really hope that you can take into consideration the fee of $50 an hour for hourly rentals. The Golden Spike increased their fees to $45 an hour a couple years ago, forcing 4-H to find another facility because of such high fees. There are still a lot of horses and kids growing up in our community that will benefit from these programs for years to come. Please help us keep this an option for all of them. Hooper City has been the best host for youth groups, rodeo riding clubs, and more for these years and has been greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and consideration, Erin Fish. The next one I have is from Tawny Thurgood. To whom it may concern, I am a 4-H parent and have been informed the arena fees has increased substantially. We are a volunteer-based group. The increase can be on the children's families. The cost of practices and shows will hinder the program. The motto for 4-H is 4-H to make the best better. We as parents are teaching skills that benefit the community. We also clean up around the arena on a regular basis. As clubs, we also do a service for Hooper City every year. On occasion, the arena has not been groomed as in the contract. Please consider your decision to jump the fee. We appreciate Hooper City employees. Thank you, Tawny Thurgood. The next one is from a Danny Rasmussen. To whom it may concern, I am a parent of a child in 4-H horses on Thursday nights. Our volunteer leaders just informed us that the yearly fees and to rent out the Hooper Arena are potentially going to increase. 4-H is such a worthwhile activity to enrich young members of the community. Making it unaffordable is going to cause membership to decline. Asking parents and leaders who are volunteering their time to cover this astronomical increase is unacceptable, and you should be ashamed to be profiting off the families getting involved in a wholesome educational opportunity. I hope this will be kept in mind tonight when you take the vote. Thank you, Danielle Rasmussen. And the last we have is from a Dana Lamb. My kids are part of 4-H horses. We have loved that we can participate in this affordable sport. We have really enjoyed being able to meet on Thursdays with our club. I am sad to hear that Hooper City has decided to increase fees from $25 to $400. This is a huge increase and most assured that this fee will be passed on to us as participants. To have kids that chose to be a part of this great program now, I will be expected to pay the fee twice. The leaders are volunteers and they cannot afford the fee. I so hope the city will reconsider this huge fee jump. Please. Thank you. My very concerned parent, Dana. And let me just check the chat for additional comment.
I don't know, we had the one from Carrie Byington.
Oh yeah, so Carrie Byington is here and she had felt that you guys had received it and she didn't want me to read it.
Okay.
Approved youth groups were 250. The recommended increase was 325.
26.
Once again, I think it was literally like.
Under a
$5 and
Under a
$9.
dollar.
Yeah,
Like,
like it was, so I don't know if it was communicated very clearly to, I feel like somewhere, something got crossed. Because I mean, I don't, my kids play different things and a $5 increase per night divided by, even if there's 10 kids, is 50 cents. Like, that's not an astronomical increase. At least in my, I don't know, am I missing something?
So, go ahead, Brad.
I think that, I don't know where we got lost. I think mine was, I mean, obviously, always a balance, right, between being fiscally responsible so the city's not upside down there. And that's really what we were talking about, is covering the cost of have somebody, you know, man the arena because they have to go down there and do stuff. And so I think that's what it was. I don't think anybody, I mean, like I said last meeting, I think that the city's deal is we're trying to zero out, not trying to, well, we're not making any money. There isn't a money maker. We're just trying to cover our costs, and those things, obviously everybody knows wages and all those things have gradually gone up. And so that's where I would say, I mean, I don't know where that balance is. I don't want to make families feel like they can't participate, for sure. But on the fiscally responsible side, seems like we ought to be able to at least zero out at the end of the year for how many man hours we had down there to take care of the arena, you know, and take care of that area. So
One thing too, took into account this $200 daily rate for the arena. Usually that would come into play when they have a show on a weekend, on a Saturday, where they might just want that one day. And from what we understand, there's a lot more than 24 kids that show up to that show. I wonder if there's 200 kids come to a 4-H show. Or, okay. $25 a day, $100 a day. And I think, of course, as far as the number of people that were there, we understood it would be more than just hoopers 4-H participating. It's Weber County.
you can do for
I
that.
don't know what my child, any sport that I play that we have to rent fields, or if they dance and they have a dance competition, like to play in a comp soccer tournament, right? It costs me $100, I think, to go to that tournament. Like, just one tournament for a weekend to play on a soccer field. So I mean, I don't think we're out of whack with what things cost, and really, we're not making money. We're paying for one staff member to be available on a day when they don't work. So we have to have someone on call. We have to have someone prepare the field, you know, the arena.
And there are some hidden costs that we didn't really take into consideration too, and that is like we use culinary water to spray down the arena. We have to pay for that. We have to pay for water district for that water, as well as whatever spraying nozzles. There's just hidden costs that we didn't account for some of those things. Just took into what the obvious type fees that are.
It's here, so.
Maybe we could have her come to the,
Can we ask you some questions?
Can I make a comment first? Before Carrie, can I make a comment? So I've got some issues with this. I go back to our accountant's letter that we just went over. The very first paragraph of our accountant's letter in our general fund says overall revenues to date are over budget to date. And expenditures are under budget to date. As a city, we're fiscally responsible. We're doing great, right? The second issue I've got is we've got this American Rescue Act thing coming along for $1 million about, we don't know yet, that we're able to spend on city, whatever. Across the country, this American Rescues Act is bailing out cities to the tune of billions of dollars, right? And so I'm a little bit frustrated that we're nickel and diming our kids for 4-H. We're nickel and diming them. We're talking about $100 increase, and we're talking millions and billions of dollars being shelled out across the country for this Rescue Act that cities can use at their discretion, hopefully at some point. So I'm frustrated that we're even considering adjusting this from $25 for an arena daily rental to $200. That's a 700% increase for a daily use of an arena, from 25 to 200. I don't know where we got those numbers from, but that seems a little bit excessive. You know, for the seasonal thing, I understand that. It's currently $250 for the youth. To go to $325 doesn't seem unreasonable, especially when you have it for 26 weeks divided by 20 kids or whatever it is, $1 a kid. But the one I have a problem with is the daily rental from 25 to 200. I have issues with that.
I would like to say that at our 4-H shows, they would come and they would rake in the morning, and then they would water, and then we would water just once during the show, just because it just got so dusty. And we tried not to bother Hooper City. We felt like we did not overuse the facility. We felt like the children picked up all the garbage. We always left the place very clean, and we are very appreciative for what it has been in the past. I think most of the 4-H families, I was surprised there was a letter that said that they were ashamed. That lady, actually, her daughter just barely entered 4-H and they've never been to a show. I'm not ashamed at all. I'm proud of Hooper City and all that you have done. If we could have maybe a gradual increase or something, maybe meet halfway. There's not very many arenas we can go to anymore. There isn't enough parking and there is not very good facilities. Legacy has now shut down. As you may or may not know, Davis County kids are asking to come in. Maybe there could be a little bit different fee for out-of-county kids versus county kids. Of course, 4-H, junior posse, those type of things are just for the youth and building the youth. And we have a lot of children that are involved and they're not involved in extracurricular activities other than horses. And so that's all that we would ask. Of course, we will comply with whatever you ask us to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Just with your concern there, Ryan, just as an example, if I have to take my students over and rent the school for any rehearsal or such, I'm paying $20 an hour,
Flat rate.
flat, 20 an hour.
Weaver County School District.
Yeah, to the school district. They don't need it. Their facilities, so they're just making money. But it's $20 an hour for each time. So if I'm there a good 3 or 4 hours, that's that, it's gonna start raking up to that higher fee.
A publicly tax-funded entity, we're paying a fee like that.
Yeah. And so fees are high, but I don't know if we need to be
And maybe
like
200 is too high.
that increase. It might be too much. And
How long how long has this $25 been in place? Is this since?
I was gonna ask about that too. Why did we take that out? Because the last time we had it, it was in here, and then
Yeah. it's
this,
on the
this
last-
time it's gone. So why did we take that out?
Our citizens, but if we're the least expensive game in town, then just like we have the complaint with the soccer fields, everyone's gonna come to that arena and that X's out our citizens.
But we approve the groups that come to our arena. We don't just say anybody can come whenever they want to. We approve them.
They have a schedule. Everybody should
Apply, right?
schedule.
Barry, I have a comment. Mhm. I was gonna say that too. I mean, it's apples, not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges, Golden Spike, like you said. Indoor facility with, yeah. So anyway, I mean, if we want to raise it, that's one thing, but 700% off the bat, I think is excessive.
Terry, what would you think a reasonable rate for it would be okay with?
So
Well, it's definitely not a for-profit situation renting it out. And if we, I guess I'll come at it from a different point. If we don't have any increase or not enough increase, how do we make improvements to that? Because then it's just maintaining what we have. So do you want improvements? Do you want to help pay for those improvements? I don't know if the money would be used for that, but
we got a ramp grant to upgrade the lights on the arena, right? So,
Well, of course, a ramp grant is not 100% of
right,
cost to improve,
right.
but
and I'm not opposed to a compromise amount. It's just,
we just took,
Recommendation came from the staff, did some research, right?
right, oh yeah, we have made, It,
Part of
It-
the problem, I think, here is that we didn't do anything for a lot of years. We probably should have, well, what I'm saying is that's part of the problem here is there's been no adjustment there for years. And so that's part of what we're battling. So I mean, the 700%, and I mean, I would be on board for less, and then let's revisit next year and see if, and that's what I would think, the direction I would like to go. But I don't
yeah, I think it just should be really clear that these numbers were not just pulled out of the air. We've made comparisons. We did go through amount of cost to Public Works. If they have to have an employee there, track.
But
So-
that being said, it's kind of a moving target though, because last time we had some numbers, for example, arena daily rentals. We had 200 current, proposed 300 on line 2 and 3. And now it says 400 for daily rentals. So we talked about 300 and now all of a sudden it's 4. So the numbers have changed since we talked about it last time.
It should be the very same numbers that we talked about and agreed to the last time we reviewed it. That's why we've,
On the fee schedule. So it should be this one. Okay. So I mean, even the adult rental, we went from 200 to 400.
I think you might be looking at Ryan there too, if it has spectators or not, right? It's
the
still
same-
too,
It's the same either way. Went from 200 to 400 on both of them. The deposit's different is all. The fee schedule.
And are they both $100 deposit or $1,000? One is
One's
1,000,
1,000,
one is
One's
100.
100 with spectators or without. So I think.
but then the youth is discounted down to 200.
So do we want to go through these line items as a council and say yay or nay, or suggest what we think they should be? So line one, arena hourly rentals went from $25 to $50 an hour for adults.
I had a question on that. I know we talked about this, but
No, that includes preparation of the arena. Right, and this would be for a scheduled time. This isn't just someone that shows up. This is for,
ride for free
right, that's right.
up until the reserve times, yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so youth hourly rental is $25 an hour that we didn't have before. It was 50 actually before. Now it's 25 for the kids. Seemed for 4 hours or whatever, it's $100. Hmm. Mhm. Okay. So down to arena daily rentals went from 200 to 400. It was 300 on the last schedule.
So the second item down on the $25 an hour,
Mhm.
that okay, or
Yeah, I think we're good with that. Correct.
That's not youth, correct? That's any,
That's anybody. That's adults. So
County.
and I think we kind of understood that, but in the event it did happen, right? Obviously, some of these will probably never be used. Don't have groups that would use them, but in the event they did use it for 1 hour or two,
A group coming to rent an arena for a day for a rodeo or a day for whatever, I don't know why, I don't think $400 is out of whack.
and it seems like most of the issue is with the youth price. Why don't we focus on that and
I
maybe,
don't think the rest of it's.
yeah.
That's
no,
what makes any difference.
I don't either.
I just want to be clear because we had 300 last time and we have 400 this time. So I want to be clear with it.
I think 4 is fine.
Okay, so 400 on the next two is okay. Okay, so the daily youth group, daily arena rental from 25 to 200 as it's written right now. I would feel better with $100. I do too. So the next one down, seasonal rentals, approved youth groups, went from 250 to 325, but we took away the show. I think we should still include the show. Yep.
okay.
Why don't you
Okay,
do a
and
free show without concessions?
so, and you
Saturday?
realize that the show now is on a Saturday, right? So that's why there's an increase, because now we're having to pay.
Well, I mean, I think the city's gonna subsidize a little bit of that. I think
Nickels and dimes, right?
Okay,
Nickels and dimes. So that's what we have currently. We have concession stand for adults, $100, youth is still 50. That's still current.
When you say a free show, I'm totally ignorant on this. What
Saturday.
Right, so how many free Saturdays will that be? Just, okay, and how many groups are there?
so you're aware of that. There are
Well, that's-
kinds of youth
Yeah, that's,
posse and
we want to do what's right by the city, but at the same time, coming out of where we're coming out of, I think that we should probably be conservative, you know? And take care of the citizens when we can. We might not always be able to do this, right? But we're in a position where we can for a minute.
And then the approved adult riding group seasonal rental went from 4 to 525.
I think that those annual, I mean, and I'm,
Seasonal rentals are,
rental is extremely generous.
I do too. And then the only thing other that changed was the arena restroom facilities. There used to be a no charge and now it's $25. Carrie, do you always use the restroom facilities on a, so it'll be an additional $25, right? I don't either.
That's scheduled.
That's scheduled. But why would you not have the restroom facilities for an entire day? But just cleaning, and that's why we charge the deposit. If they're dirty, we keep the deposit.
yeah, if it's a deposit, they're gonna get it back, so I don't see a problem with the deposit.
$50 deposit, but we've started charging them $25 in addition to the deposit. I would say no charge. Okay. Alex. So the only things we changed was $100 instead of $200 and then no charge on the restrooms. Correct?
and
Okay. $50 deposit. Anything else we need to do?
Got to look at it again next year and see how, if these changes made a difference or if they didn't, or.
Well, it's even got on here, somewhere in the. So let's vote on the resolution.
So this would, resolution number 2021-01. This will be a roll call vote.
You need a motion. Mhm.
Okay. So we have a motion. So have a motion, second, to adopt those fee schedules with the amended amounts. Been discussed tonight. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Okay, so I'll just go right down through the list here and then you can respond. Councilmember Cox,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill, Councilmember Osler, Councilmember Paulson, Councilmember Northrup.
Yes.
That was unanimous.
Thanks, Carrie, for.
Thank you for.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have approval of resolution R-2021-02. And this is certifying individuals for the PTIF account. What that stands for is the Public Treasurers Investment Fund. And what that is it's an account that the state will only allow the city to maintain a certain amount of money in our account here, in like a city account. Anything over that amount has to be moved into this savings account state. And so every once in a while, we have a change in the person that can sign, authorize that movement of money from one account to another. And it used to be Julie, now moved, doesn't work as the secretary of the city anymore. She actually, or what's the name of our accountant group?
Child and Richards.
Child Richards. So now we have Nicole. And so what this does is a resolution that would allow the mayor designate a new person. If there's a change, to move that money into that account. It doesn't alter any of the approval process. Everything is just the same. So everything that's in place, all the checks that are in place to track that money is still just the same. It's just the person that moves it in. Did I explain that right?
Right. So that's correct. So the PTIF account is the state account that we have to keep. And that's where most of all of our general fund is held. So the state has limitations on what we can keep in our checking account, essentially. And so our checking account, the account that we actually pay our payables out of, is separate from the PTIF account. So, and we're limited. The state requires that we only hold so much in that personal checking account. The PTIF account has more security, more insurance attached to it. So Teresa and Nicole watch that every month as we pay bills and make sure that that limit in our checking account, it never goes over a certain percentage. And so when it does, we transfer money into the PTIF account. So what this is this is something we've done always, and I think we've talked a little about how the state is changing audit procedures, and this is one of the things that they're changing. So they're requiring that this, it used to be just done kind of in-house, but now they're requiring it's done by a resolution. So when Julie retired and Nicole took that spot, we have to approve that through resolution before they'll authorize her to transfer that money. So the transfer of this money in no way takes away any of the controls we have for how the money is spent, because they're separate. So no money gets technically spent out of the PTIF account. It's spent out of our budget account. This is just transferring the money from checking to the PTIF account to keep us in the correct fund balance.
Thanks for clarifying that. I was just gonna ask what we did before this resolution, but now it makes sense.
Yeah, it's usually, it's just done in-house. And we always have the mayor on there, and we always have Nicole or our current treasurer. It's never been the mayor that actually makes that transition for the money. It's always done with the city finance, so like Teresa and Nicole. Those are the controls that we take place, but we always put the mayor on there because we do have a third-party treasurer. So say she's gone for a minute or something and we need to move that money because we will be fined, then that they can do that. But there's never been a need for that ever. It was just a fail safe so we don't get fined.
So I'll make a motion that we approve or adopt resolution number 2021-02, authorizing the mayor to certify individuals to access and utilize the city's public treasurer's investment fund account.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Resolution number 2021 dash. All those in favor? Okay, so now we'll take the roll count with that. Councilmember Cox,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Osler, Councilmember Paulson, Northrop. All. Okay, that completes all the items on the agenda. Now open this up for comment, and we have that have written in a comment. Donna, to you. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the citizens' comment. Entertain a motion.
One thing I had was whoever set up the spring cleanup, Shauna, whoever did that, thank you. That was in the newsletter. Yeah. Yep. The other thing that was in the newsletter was the elections, just a reminder of all the district seats are open again this year. So we have to register by June 1st. Yep. Thanks for that. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Here we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in
Aye.
motion carries.